Yes, so that's why we're recording this, so that if ever you want to come back to the session, remember what was shared, you always have that our YouTube channel will be up. We'll be posting this video later on for everyone to just remember this. Ayan, so kay Pauline, it's gloomy in Taguig, but it's still a magical afternoon. I've always loved your optimism, Pauline. So thanks so much for sharing that. And right now it's 3 o'clock, so we can actually start. Welcome everyone to our webinar. Our webinar today is setting yourself up, communicating using the STAR method. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. If you have been coming back, you know me a bit. I'm Nikki Vergara. I'm the co-founder of Positive Workplaces and also the Chief Wellbeing Officer here. I have a background in psychology. So I studied master's in counseling psychology, but because I didn't just want to help people through their problems, I want to help people become the very best of who they are. I just kept studying. I took another master's of applied positive psychology at the University of Melbourne. And it's been the pleasure of like the last 2 years for me to be able to share all of these things that I've learned and combining it with the wisdom from local research into these webinars that we've been hosting ever since April last year. And I'm from Positive Workplaces. So in Positive Workplaces, our mission is to co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone in this community who attends the webinars, who refers the webinars to their friends, who practices what we share here. Because really, we're able to achieve this mission through you. You are the primary champion of this movement, because we believe that if you learn these things, you learn how to lead yourself. You're able to master new knowledge, take care of yourself, enhance your well-being. And when you're able to lead yourself, you're also able to lead others. And when you're leading others, you're learning together, you're able to lead cultures, and you create that positive culture, you then create positive workplaces. So we couldn't live our mission if not through you. So thank you so much for everyone for even just attending and sharing the word to other people that you know. It's been such a big help to us in reaching our mission. So this whole month of July, this is going to be our focus on championing coaching culture for career development. So in this particular webinar, we're going to be talking about setting yourself up, communicating using the STAR method. We have upcoming webinars as well. We're so grateful to have such esteemed speakers like Van Sunso, who is a country HR and head of People Central in Canva. And he's going to be talking about finding purpose, how to find meaningful work. We'll also have Danica Okta and Jen Kakilala, who will talk about mindful goal setting. Do we just hustle through the expectations? So it's going to be a really enriching webinar, whether you're a coach or whether you're a young person who is looking for how they can champion themselves and how they can look for coaches as well. This is a perfect webinar series for you. So first, I'm starting off the webinar series with this topic, setting yourself up, communicating using the STAR method. And before we get into it, I just want to give credit to our lead designers. That's Christine Nopre and Rosemary C. They are training and development interns in Positive Workplaces. They're still studying behavioral science at the University of the Philippines, but they've been such incredible assets to our team. They are the lead designers of today's webinar. So first, I want to ask you, and in a way, it's also our check-in. What is your intention in joining today's webinar? So you can click on the Mentimeter link in the chat box, or if you have another device, like you're watching this webinar through your laptop and you have your phone or your tablet, you can actually turn the camera on, point it to the screen, and that QR code will lead you to Mentimeter. Or the simplest way, I think, is to just also click on the link in the chat box that Gio, who's helping us behind the scenes, has posted. So I want to know, what is your intention in joining today's webinar? Is it to learn more about communicating your achievements whether you're preparing for a job interview or whether it's something you want to learn to do better, communicating your achievements. Or are you coming into this webinar with that mentor hat? You want to become a better mentor for others and you want to be able to draw out the achievements of your mentees. Or maybe you're just a regular in positive workplaces and you just always want to come and see whatever it is that we're cooking up here. Please let us know. You can type it on Mentimeter, or you can put it on Mentimeter, or again, the chat box is always open. You can also share your responses with us there. So Bernadette, for instance, said, learn to be better for my work, especially that I'm working from home. So yeah, Bernadette, I think this session especially is gonna help you to take a more reflective stance towards the work that you do. And when you're able to reflect using the STAR method as well, you're more aware of your achievements and what you can do, what you can showcase about your skills, how you can communicate that to others. And ultimately, whether you're looking for a new job or looking to get a promotion or just wanting to reflect about your situation, what you can do to enhance it, you are in the perfect webinar for it. Yeah, so it looks like there's more mentors. There's lots of mentors here. That's their primary goal, to become a better mentor. Some people are just looking to communicate their achievements more. I think I would have resonated most with this. That's something I struggled with in the past, how to communicate my achievements, and the STAR method really helped. And again, some people just curious. Fatima said, I want to learn how to communicate efficiently. Since I'm an introvert person, Fatima, I feel you. I think we're like soul sisters in that aspect. I'm very introverted actually, and I keep to myself. I don't like talking about myself to other people. I'm the type to rather listen. So this STAR framework has been immensely helpful for me and also the people in positive workplaces who are on the more introverted side as well. Angelica also wants to become a better mentor. All right, glad to see all of these intentions shaping up. And to really reiterate, who is this webinar for? It's for anyone who is looking to apply for a job, or who's looking at the promotion, or just really anyone who wants to learn about how to speak about their achievements well. So basically it's for everyone, but also it's for, I have a special segment in this webinar where I talk to I address coaches in the room, coaches or mentors in the room, about how they can use the STAR method to be able to draw out the stories of their mentees. So this is going to be our learning roadmap for today. First, we'll talk about why. Why is it important to communicate your achievements to others? And if you're a coach or mentor, why is it important to draw out the stories of your mentees? Then we'll talk about what is the STAR framework. Some people might already know it. Some people are maybe learning it for the first time. And then we'll get to more practical tips. How do you communicate your story using the STAR framework? I'll also be sharing about my experience following the STAR framework. So some reminders before we really get started. Have a pen and paper on hand. And if you have another device, it's great. It's easy to access the Mentimeter questions, or just be ready to go to another link. But then again, don't let Menti be a barrier. If there's anything you want to say, just put it on the chat box. And all participants will be on mute initially, but I love to hear your thoughts, your insights. Don't hesitate to put it in the chat box. I love to read it out. And again, certificates will be issued after answering the post-evaluation. We'll share the link with you later. And just know that we have actually a 30-minute window. So it will be open for 30 minutes. So as soon as you get the link, please already answer the post-evaluation. And if you have questions, you can actually share it in the chat box. Or if you want to remain super, super anonymous, you can also ask them through Pigeonhole. So if at any point you have questions, note them down. You can put it in Pigeonhole. So if you want to ask You can ask your questions on www.pigeonhole.at/star, or you can scan this QR code. I'll also bring this page back at the end of the webinar. And Gio also pasted the link in the chat box. So if any question comes up, don't hesitate to put it there. You have an option to stay anonymous if you're asking a question on Pigeonhole, or if you're brave and you want to share your name, you can also share your name there. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about why. Why is it important to communicate your achievements to others? Let's first think about our Filipino context. We have the Filipino value of pagpapakumbaba. So a lot of people are so afraid about highlighting their achievements, showcasing their talents or what they're good at. Who can relate in the room? Can you share in the chat box? Do you hesitate to share your achievements with others? I know I definitely agree that it was always hard for me to talk about my achievements to others, because we grew up in a culture where people tell us wag kang mayabang, kung may nagawa ka, tumahimik ka lang, you don't have to call attention to yourself. And I mean, we're Filipino, we grew up in that culture where we want to be humble. We praise the people who are humble. We don't like people who are sobrang mayabang, di ba? We say things like, grabe, ang press ko naman ito, if they talk about their achievements. Or ang yabang naman, or grabe, sa tingin niya ba, ang galing-galing niya. There is that aspect of our culture when people highlight or showcase their achievement. So for instance, some people said, if I talk about my achievement, others might take it as pagmamayabang. I read that in the chat box. Maria Teresa said, I agree. Being confident about what you are capable of is equated to arrogance. Yeah, right. Diba? Parang sometimes we're put in a very difficult position na, of course, yes, we're proud of ourselves. We want to be able to showcase our achievements so that we get similar roles in the future. Pero if we come off as confident, other people equate it as arrogance, and that's very difficult for us. And Jennifer Milan said, yes, because most people would mistake it as boasting. Diba? Ang hirap. Another said, yeah, because they might say na binubuhat ang sariling bangko. Yes, that's another great idiom sa Philippines, di ba? Oy, grabe, ayoko magbuhat ng sarili kong bangko. Pero, so, parang in a way, nagbubusina ka muna before you talk about your achievements. Kasi, yun nga, meron tayong term na, oy, binubuhat yung sariling bangko. John, who's our CEO and co-founder, also said na there's also that imposter syndrome. And yes, I definitely resonate with John. Now, if I say that I'm brilliant, or if I say that I do something well, I might feel that maybe I'm not that great after all, and that imposter syndrome attacks you and keeps you from really shining bright for others. And Lord Cyril said, modesty aside, so my preface tayo minsan, modesty aside, Maria Teresa said, also they would say, you use, minsan naman if we're humble, they say, oy, false humility yan. So di ba, parang ang hirap naman to talk about our achievements. It's because we have this overlying culture, this underlying culture na kailangan natin pahalagahan yung pagpapakumbaba. So mahirap. And that's not just in the Philippines. There's this overall Asian culture that makes it go deeper pa. Like for instance, this is a Japanese saying: the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. So coming into like for instance, when I studied in Australia, studied abroad na medyo Western, or meeting Americans or Europeans, we all notice that it's Asians who don't highlight their success. So sometimes it's people who are coming from the West who are so comfortable with it, but Asians, we're not comfortable with it. So who gets the opportunities then? It's like interviewing a lot of people. We even talk about how it's rare to have an Asian CEO. Even like in the Philippines, sometimes you get in international companies, multinational companies. Asians don't always have the highest positions, or even if they're qualified, because we have this hesitance to talk about our achievements, talk about our talents, and what we're great at. So that's the context, di ba? Ang hirap that we have that Filipino culture and that Asian culture where they tell us to not highlight your success too much. Pero merong pitfalls yung pagiging masyadong modest. So what are those pitfalls? You might avoid celebrating your achievements. Have you ever done that? Maybe you can share with us then on the chat box. Were there ever moments na you think you did so well and you want to celebrate it, kaso merong ang ganong culture, so you avoided celebrating your achievements instead? And when that happens, you don't even get to celebrate or savor your success. And sabi ni Lord Cyril, that's sad. And it does happen to a lot of people na they worked really hard for something and then they succeeded and they didn't even really reap the benefits of that joyful moment kasi they already moved on onto working again because they hesitate to avoid celebrating their achievements. And another thing is you might not get promoted. If you never talk about your success or your achievements, it's possible that people won't notice. If you never attribute good outcomes to the work that you did, it's easy for people to not notice. So you might not get promoted. You might not be viable for those next positions. And also, there's this tendency na people might not notice your talent unless you tell them. Because honestly, we get really busy in the workplace. People may forget what your achievements were unless you tell them. And lastly, it will be difficult for you to live up your full potential. You know, I encounter so many people in the world that they're so brilliant. They have so many strengths. They're so unique, but they never speak highly of themselves. And so they never try to get the role. They falter in interviews because they didn't really showcase just how good they were. So in those instances, you don't set yourself up well. It will be difficult for you to live up to your full potential. So that's why we have this webinar. Whether you're someone coming into the workforce, someone looking for a promotion, or just someone who wants to get a more accurate sense of yourself, it's really important to feel comfortable and worthy of your own success before you can communicate that to others. So you gotta practice telling your story well, knowing your achievements, and this webinar is gonna help us with that. It's so important to feel comfortable in that. It's so important to feel worthy so that you can showcase your talents to others. So knowing when and how to communicate your achievements help you first build your reputation and your visibility. Next, it helps you advance your career. And a lot of studies actually show that even it will help you increase your salary growth. So sometimes we wonder na bakit hindi napapansin yung achievements ko, or bakit ang tagal-tagal ko na sa job na to, mas may kaya pa nga ako sa ibang mga tao, pero bakit yung salary ko hindi tumataas? It might be because you don't communicate your achievements. So although there are external aspects there, there's something about what you do that perpetuates the situation. And we want for all of our audience here to be able to go for that great job, to be able to speak highly of themselves, to be able to get that role, that promotion. And so that's why we're having this webinar. Now, for you to build that confidence, you gotta learn how to communicate your achievements, because it will help you advance your career, build your reputation, and even increase your salary. Another thing is, especially for those who are going to be looking for jobs, who are new to the workforce, yung interviewers ngayon, the recruiters, they use behavioral interview questions. This is almost a gold standard na competency-based yung mga interviews. So they're not going to tell you to, tell me about your qualities. And then you can just say, I'm a team player, I'm intelligent, I'm persevering. Interviews are not usually like that. Yung gold standard is that they ask behavioral interview questions to draw out your competencies. And so they don't tell you they don't ask you to tell you about their qualities. They're actually going to refer to past situations. They start questions off with, tell me about a time when blank. For instance, tell me about a time when you were most challenged. Tell me about a time when you were at your best. Or what do you do when there's a tight deadline and members of your team are not ready to fulfill their obligations? Or maybe, have you ever led a team? Or give me an example of when you had an argument with your boss. How did you handle it? Or describe a time when you felt stressed at work. They're actually asking you to think about real experiences in your life. So it's hard to, if you're not prepared, it's hard to frame just how you can showcase how good you are. And so being in this webinar, knowing the STAR framework will also help you set things up so you can communicate your achievements, no matter how difficult the question is. So it's important to communicate your achievement, and it's equally important to communicate it in the right way. There's a way for us to communicate our achievements in a way na hindi mayabang or hindi sasabihin ng ibang tao na, ay grabe, binubuhat mo yung sarili mong bangko. Maybe there are times when we can't fully control what people say about us, but we can find a way to communicate our achievements that's objective and that's still accurate. So people won't say, oy, ang yabang naman ito. And for the coaches in the room, there are quite a lot. As a coach or mentor, why is it important to draw out the stories of your mentees? And again, I want to point back to that. You want your mentee or coachee to succeed, right? And we just talked about the many pitfalls of being too modest. And at the same time, because it's our culture to be very humble, sometimes to a fault, it's not intuitive for a lot of people to communicate about their achievements. So if it's not intuitive to them and they're not coming into webinars like this, or not learning about the STAR method, then it's up to you to really teach them this method and to have this method at the back of your mind when you're coaching them. So it's really important for coaches to know this framework and to have it at the back of your mind if you want to coach other people well. So now we're gonna go into the what. We're gonna talk about the STAR framework, which will really help a lot of us talk about our achievements. So for that one, I'm actually gonna bring out a quiz on Mentimeter, and we just want to know who among here already know the STAR framework. So we'll go to Mentimeter. We have a quiz there. Just click on the link that Gio posted or scan the QR code on the screen. And let's go to Mentimeter. So my first question, you can just guess it. If you don't know, just use your best guess. So you have quite a number of players in the room, 27 already. Your prize is bragging rights. And let's see who's gonna get the answer as fast as you can and answer correctly. What does S stand for sa STAR framework? So STAR has 4 letters and it's an acronym. Each of it stands for something really meaningful that helps you communicate your achievement. What does S stand for? I just want to gauge yung knowledge in the room. Great. Okay, 18 people got that right. It stands for situation. And I'll talk about that more deeply, that the first step is to actually lay out the situation. When you want to talk about your achievements, set the context first. Next question. Sige, let's see who's leading. Ooh, Bianca Del Rio, followed by Lola, KM, and Boti. Boti, okay. Instant name lang pala yan, nickname. Bianca is the fastest. The next is this. What does T stand for? So what does T stand for? Is it trial? Is it task? Is it team? Or is it thought? And for me, I learned the STAR framework when I was studying psych. And a lot of people don't know it, but it's been super helpful for me to be able to communicate my achievements. So the next thing after you set the situation, set the context, is talk about what task. What were you assigned to do? What were you made to do after that, given the situation? So T stands for task. Amazing. 29 people got it right. And again, I just want to know who's the lead. Ooh, really close. Pero makakahabol pa. Lola is the fastest now. And you will know the next one. What does A stand for? What does A stand for? So situation first, talk about the situation, talk about your task. What's A? Is it action? Is it answer? Is it application? Or is it arrangement? What does A stand for? Wow, okay, this one. A lot of people got this one right. It's action. What action did you take? After the task was laid out, what did you actually do? And then last question. Let's see who's leading. Ooh, still Lola. Congrats, Lola. The next one, the last question is, of course, the STAR. The last letter is R. What does R stand for? Is it rest? Is it relief? Is it route? Is it result? Which does R stand for? Which is the final step in communicating your achievement? Wow, okay, more people got this one right, but it's result. So at the end of it, you talk about what did you actually achieve? What happened? What was the impact of your actions? So that's what STAR stands for. I just want to know, just want to congratulate and give bragging rights to the person who was the fastest and most accurate. A lot of people actually got all the answers correct. Lola, I wonder who you are. Reveal. Be proud of yourself. Who maybe you can share who you are. It's a chat box. And it's amazing. You know what the STAR framework is, and you know it really well. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about now. We're going to break down each component of the STAR framework. And again, the STAR framework, what is it? It's first, you'll talk about the situation, and then the task, and then the action, and you say what was the result. So what is STAR? If you are an interviewer, it's really popular for you because it's the gold standard in interviewing usually. It's a technique to guide you in interviews. Diba? You want to know you don't want people to just talk about themselves in very vague terms. If you're an interviewer, you don't just want to ask, what are your qualities, or tell me your best features. You actually want to really draw out what did the applicant actually do. Will they be able to do that in the current work setup? So it's a technique to guide people in interviews. And it's used in providing very specific and concrete examples. So STAR helps you really talk about your story in concrete and tangible terms. And if you're the one communicating your success to others, it helps you make a positive and lasting impression. So first, we'll talk about S, which is situation. It's so important to set the context. Sometimes kasi we jump straight into what we did. Usually people jump into, oh, okay, I made a webinar and that's it. And the story is over. So for instance, when I have to talk about my achievements as co-founder of Positive Workplaces, and again, I resonate with everyone in the room who says they're really shy. They're not used to taking in the spotlight or talking about themselves and their achievements. I definitely wasn't used to it before I started hanging out with John Moore. So sometimes when people ask me, oh, wow, tell me about your work. And I just say, we just made webinars and that's it. And goodbye. Diba? But if you follow the STAR framework, it's better if you set the context. It's better if you detail the situation. You emphasize the complexities and you describe the barriers. So in me following the STAR framework now, instead of just saying, oh, I just made webinars, I actually talk more about the situation. So what was the situation when we started making webinars in positive workplaces? So that was in March when we were meant to have more face-to-face trainings. Now we just set up positive workplaces. We were gonna do face-to-face trainings, and then suddenly the pandemic happened. And after the lockdown, there were no more face-to-face trainings. So that was the context. A lot of people were telling me, Nikki, you know what? I'm sorry. I know I intended to get you and bring you to our company, but the first budget slashes that we've made are all on training. And the situation is just so difficult right now in the pandemic that it's unlikely that we're ever going to think about bringing positive psychology and positive workplaces into our company right now because we just can't afford it. So that's what people were telling me. And there were so many barriers in the situation, right? Like I have never facilitated online in my life. All of my workshops were always face-to-face. And all of the initial contacts that I've had who were interested in bringing positive workplaces to their organization, they all canceled because at the beginning, everyone was just panicking about the pandemic. And so the situation was really bleak when we were talking about how we can bring positive workplaces to more organizations. So that was the situation. And then you can then talk about the task. Detail your responsibilities. Describe your core involvement. What were the specific tasks that were assigned? And explain the outcomes that you expected. So our task, because our core mission, talking about my example, our core mission in positive workplaces is to co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And again, I already detailed how bleak our situation was, all the barriers. Now, our task was still, despite everything going on, how can we co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce? That was a task. That was our mission that we had to do. Be accessible to people, provide access to learnings from positive psychology to people was our main task. Help people with their well-being was our main task. Help people adjust to the remote setup was one of our tasks. And what did we end up doing? So what actions did we take? So in A, you actually describe the steps that you took and be really specific about what you did so that you showcase your contribution and talk about how you responded to the challenge. So I remember John and I had that conversation that even if nobody was going to hire us, I mean, nobody was going to pay for our services, we still wanted to make our service available to everyone. And so our action was to create public webinars that everyone could attend for free. Anyone who was interested, anyone who was curious about positive psychology, anyone who needed help with their well-being could attend our public webinars. We created 3 free webinars every month. And that was one action that we took. Another action that we took, or I took in particular, was when I started meeting these young, brilliant people, I started imagining, oh, what if they worked with us? What if we had an internship program? So one of my actions was to tell John, hey, John, I think we could create an internship program. And even if John initially was like, I'm not sure if we can rely on people who have never had work experience to do all of these things. And then I just really pushed for it. I just really said like, oh, these young people that I've met, they're really brilliant. They don't have they don't have full on employment experience yet, but I really think we can help them. So those were 2 actions that I took. Started facilitating webinars for free, and I pushed for the development of an internship program as well when I met the brilliant young people during that time. And so that leads you to R. What was the result? Describe what you accomplished. Really try to quantify your achievements. So something that I always tell, for instance, our interns in positive workplaces is we have the stats. For instance, if you created marketing pub for us, we have the stats of how many people liked it, how many people saw that post, how many people shared it, what was the reach of that particular post, and what was the increase from when John and I were the ones just making our own pubs. What was the difference when you came in the picture? So there was a 400% increase in shares or engagement, and that's something that you can put. Or let's say you were able to do something. How many people did you impact? Or what was the score that you received? Or what was the number of how much income you were able to generate? If it's possible, be really concrete, quantify your achievements. If there are numbers, numbers speak volumes. And show how your action made an impact. So say just how exactly, like really link how that action led to that result. And I know there are also other things happening. It's not just purely your action that led to that result, but know that your actions are actually critical in reaching some results. So without you, the result wouldn't be fully there. Otherwise, diba, who would want to hire someone who doesn't create results? So take some ownership over the results of your organization as well. Show how your action made an impact. And then state the benefits. Let's say the revenue of your organization improved, or let's say you were able to increase employee engagement when you created a team building webinar or a team building session for your team. So state what benefits came out of your actions, and that is R. So honestly, as I've shared before, I really shy away from talking about my achievements. But again, because I spent a lot of time with John and he always gushes about the STAR framework. And in fact, we teach it to a lot of people that if you want to communicate your achievements, if you're having a hard time, just follow the STAR framework. And that's something that I've been able to apply for myself. So now it's really clear what were my achievements as a co-founder in Positive Workplaces. So again, it's easy now for me to really tell the story to other people without me feeling like, oh gosh, nagyayabang ba ako? I feel less mayabang because I'm actually stating accurate facts. Like I'm stating facts and I'm just following the STAR framework in my mind. So if you're just sharing a story by being really detailed, and you're highlighting your achievements through that, honestly, try it out. You'll feel the difference. It feels less of you boasting and more of you just stating the facts of what happened. So I'm more comfortable talking about my achievements again. So STAR stands for situation. What for me in particular, that we were amidst a pandemic where people were really scrambling to take care of their well-being. Mental health and well-being was declining. People were slashing their budgets. What was the task that I did? My task was to find a way to still co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce, despite the budget cuts, despite not being able to see people face to face. What was my action? We created webinars. I facilitated webinars ever since April. A lot of you have been seeing me here, and I love that we are more familiar with each other now. After a year, you know that we were all there with those webinars. I facilitated and designed those webinars, and I also brought interns in, gave them an opportunity and a space to really make contributions to the work that we do. And what was the result? So far, just to share what has been happening in Positive Workplaces, and I want to thank everyone. We wouldn't be able to get these results without you as well. We've had 215 trainings, 6,600 followers already just on Facebook, and we've had over 7,000 learners just in a span of 1 year. What else has happened? We're now on YouTube. And with the help of our team and our interns, we're now on YouTube. We're we have our website, it's up, it has so many resources. We're on Instagram, and we also just launched our podcast. So later we'll be sharing the links to all of this. So our reach has really expanded. And I know that this has been possible because I created a space where interns could thrive in positive workplaces. I mentored them, I gave them tips, and I gave them the ownership to take on those tasks. So that's me using S.T.A.R. But for you naman, how do you communicate your story using the S.T.A.R framework? I'm also going to be giving you some tips and more examples in this part. So if you have your pen and paper ready, that would be really handy. I'm going to be showing you one of the worksheets that I keep bringing back to positive workplaces. So first I want to ask you, were you ever insincere, meaning you weren't fully honest when answering the question, tell us about the time you were most challenged? So answer that on menti.com. I'm sure you've encountered some form of that interview question when they said, tell us about a time when you were most challenged, and you didn't really share a time when you were most challenged. You actually shared the time na medyo nadalian ka. So yeah, let us know. Were you ever insincere when answering the question, tell us about a time when you were most challenged? And I'm gonna be really honest. I was. Because syempre nagugulat ako sa questions minsan, and I don't wanna highlight when I didn't do well. So, or when I was really challenged. They might see only my weakness. And if I'm trying to land a job or I'm trying to communicate my achievement, how do I answer that behavioral question without lying a little bit, right? So looks like majority of the people here were insincere. And five said never. Oh my gosh, I really salute the 6 here who have never been insincere in an interview. Your integrity is very laudable. And but most of us, it's not surprising that we're sometimes insincere, because how do you highlight your achievements or your strengths if we're going to be talking about a time when we're most challenged? So for a lot of you who have ever gotten this question or will be going to interview soon, I'll give you an insight from a recruiter friend who we've also had as a guest in Positive Workplaces. Jerome Zapata, who's a friend, told me na we can see through your lies. We know when you're just twisting the question. You twist the question and then you end up talking about your strength instead, or something that you found easy, and you pretend that it's a challenge. We can see right through you. And so I asked him, are you really, so is it really not a trick question when you ask us to tell about a time when we were most challenged? And he said, yeah, it's not a trick question. We really want to hear about a time when you were most challenged. So if you ever encounter this question, there's still a way to be able to communicate your achievement. But the first step is to be really sincere about it. So we'll do a little exercise where if you encounter behavioral interview questions like this, like, tell me about a time when you were most challenged, or tell me about a time when you were at your best in work. This activity always really helps us to go deep into our really reflect deeply about our experience. So something that you can do is become more aware of it right now. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to graph your energy level through the years. And again, I'll share mine. Pre-med was not great for me because if you saw my report card, oh gosh, it was always just D, chemistry, D, organic chemistry, C, physics. So my grades are so bad in pre-med, and I really tried my best, but I just didn't do well. I was puyat every night studying all those subjects, but it was so depleting for me to be there. more exciting or invigorating times of my life was when I was assigned to teach in Mindanao. So I was teaching there for 1 year. And many of you may not know, but I actually taught in a public school for 2 years. So through an organization, Teach for the Philippines, I was assigned to teach third grade students of the lowest section in an elementary school where that catered to kids who were from the urban poor communities. And then that was really draining for me. It picked up when I studied counseling in Ateneo and when I studied positive psychology at the University of Melbourne. And I think I'm in a good place right now doing my work in positive workplaces. So being really honest, if people in the past, in the times in the past, when people ask me, tell me about a time where you were challenged, or tell me about a time where you felt stressed. I just pretend that my stress time was teaching, because honestly there were moments naman when I was teaching and then I was stressed, or when I was studying counseling and I was stressed, but I wasn't really fully sincere and authentic. And as my friend said, Jerome said, who is an HR and a recruiter, he said, we see through you when you are not really sincere with a question. So first step is to be sincere. If they're asking you to talk about a challenging time, actually share with them the challenging time. So for instance, I will talk about that time when I was a public school teacher teaching third grade students. The situation was, I was teaching 50 students in a very cramped classroom. The community that the school served was close to payatas, close to very unstable communities where there was violence, where a lot of people were impoverished, and I was teaching the lowest section in that school. So my students were 13-year-olds who do not know how to read. My students were students who don't show up to school every day because they're hungry or wala silang baon. And that was the situation that I was in. My task was to teach the third grade curriculum for 2 years. And what was my action? Then one of my actions was, because I knew that I couldn't teach my students without helping them with their well-being first, I started taking a postgraduate class in emotional problems in childhood. I spent after work tutoring my students about how to count, how to read. I visited their homes. I talked to their moms. I became text mates with their moms and asked them, hey, why didn't this particular student come to school today? Or asking their moms what is it like at home? Is there somebody who can help this particular student at home? Or if there's no one to help them, would you mind if they stay 1 hour longer in school to do remedial reading with me? And what was the result then? The result is I was actually able to teach a number of students how to read. One of my favorite stories is in just 2 years ago, while I was studying in Australia, one of my students messaged me. He was the student who was 13 years old. He didn't know how to read. He didn't know how to count when he came in my class. Pero kinukwento niya na he proceeded through grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, grade 6, and then went to high school. And then even if it was difficult for him to go to school because nobody was funding his education, yung ginagawa niya, he would go to Landers and then buy cookies or chips or other things and then iba-buy and sell niya to other people. And in that way, he was able to fund his education and what he needed to be able to still keep going to school. So that was the result. And I know my contribution there is, if he didn't learn how to read, if he didn't know how to do math, would he be able to post the products that he's selling on Facebook? Would he be able to put a margin on the prices and earn from it? Would he be able to pick out yung products and, do all of that, promote it, sell it, go to the next grade level. So I know my contribution there. So it makes me kind of emotional to talk about it. If you asked me before, I just will not talk about those things anymore because it was a really challenging time for me. I that was a moment in my life when I really felt like I was out of my depth. But because I have this STAR framework to follow now, I have that easy way of telling that story without without coming across, hopefully, na masyadong mayabang, that you're attributing all of that success of your student to yourself. I'm not attributing all his success to me, but I'm honest when I say I taught him how to read, I taught him how to count, and the success, the him knowing how to read and him knowing how to count helped him do that buy and sell thing and continue to fund his education. So yeah, the first tip I have for all of you is, when you encounter those questions, those difficult questions, or people asking you to share your most challenging moment, be really sincere and then just follow the STAR framework after. Let's say you feel like, oh, I don't have a lot to talk about right now because wala naman ako masyadong na-achieve. I was so stressed out, and I just, I feel mediocre. Then that is the moment where either you talking to yourself or you as a coach coming in, you can say, oh, but did you still go to work the next day? And you going to work the next day, even when you're having a hard time with your own well-being, that's already quite an achievement, diba? So even in the most challenging moments, there are things that you can highlight about what you did well. Even if all you did was to show up at work, even if amidst all of the difficulty, you were still able to make bonding moments for your team amidst that challenge. Even if you were having a hard time, but you still committed to the task because you are the breadwinner of your family. So even amongst depleting and challenging situations, there's really something there that you can share about what you did well. And it's easy to uncover that using the STAR framework. And it's easy to highlight your achievements if you just follow the STAR framework. If you didn't follow the framework, sometimes it's hard to put that story together. So some other behavioral interview questions that you might encounter is, for instance, talk about an instance when you led your team through a tight deadline, or describe a situation where you took initiative. So if you are someone who is looking for that promotion, looking to get a job, or exploring more opportunities, these are some of the questions that your interviewers might ask. They're behavioral interview questions because they want you to be able to showcase your competencies. They don't just want you to say that you're intelligent. They want you to tell them exactly what ways did you showcase critical thinking. They don't want you to just say na, oh, I'm a team player. They want you to really talk about instances where you collaborated with others, where you brought people together. So if you want to prepare for those interview questions, if you want to be prepared to tell that kind of story, start answering these questions now and just follow the STAR framework. So I got permission actually from some of my interns, Christine and Rose, who designed this webinar, to share their story with the STAR framework. So for instance, I asked Christine, can you tell me about an achievement that you have in positive workplaces? And she kind of reminds me of me, na parang they don't wanna, she's brilliant, but she doesn't want to share, or she's hesitant to share her achievement kasi meron ngang imposter syndrome minsan na what if she shares these things and people expect too much from her, and that might make her a bit anxious. But we follow the STAR framework. So whether you're someone who's thinking about how you can showcase your story, or whether you're a coach who's trying to draw that story from someone else, you can follow the STAR framework. So this is what Christine was able to achieve. First, she said like, oh, I just did a webinar. I did a webinar and on Mentimeter. And that's it. And she said, oh, that's it. And then now as a coach, I showed her the STAR framework and I guided her through talking to me about the situation, the task, the action, and then the result. So this is Christine's story now. What was the situation? Again, pandemic. The trainers in a specific government agency did not know how to train people now that they couldn't see each other face to face. So I was helping Christine set up that situation as well. I asked her to think about the context. What were our participants facing? What did they ask for? Why do you think they asked for that particular webinar? And then ano yung task? So that the task is to make a webinar on Mentimeter. And know that in the past, hanggang dyan lang yung story ni Christine. She just said, I made a webinar on Mentimeter and that's it. But now that she's able to set up the situation that trainers don't know how to train in this situation, the trainings aren't happening because the trainers don't know how to create engaging presentations. She then came in with making a webinar on Mentimeter. And what was her particular action? What did she do? A detailed version. Yes, she designed a webinar, but more than that, and these are her words now, we provided a strong rationale to use this tool. We talked about the benefits of Mentimeter, and we provided a step-by-step tutorial on how to use it. So those were her actions. She didn't just create a webinar, diba? She was really clear about her design. She started with a rationale. Why is this tool going to help you create more engaging trainings? How is this tool going to help you create psychological safety in your trainings? And then she talked about, okay, from step by step, how do you make an account? What are the questions that you can ask? What are the features of Mentimeter and how can you use it? That's what she did. And the result was people loved that webinar so much that actually they kept asking for training from positive workplaces. So Christine's work really helped us maintain a good relationship with that client. So much so that they asked for more webinars. We now have a good partnership with that government organization. And things that we read from our evaluation, people really gained more confidence about how to train in a pandemic. People are so excited to be able to create trainings again and won't allow the virtual setup to stop them. So if there are more trainings down the line, let's say we did a monitoring with that organization and we heard from them na because of this training, these are actually the engagement scores that we're getting. And we found this out through the survey. So as a coach, that's something that I can further feed back to Christine to help her enhance her story. So whether you're on your own right now and you don't have a coach, follow the STAR framework. Or if you are a coach and people are having a hard time talking about their achievements, then do it step by step with them. Ask them what was the situation. If there are things that they're missing out about just how dire that situation is, just how intense the challenge is, reflect it back to them. Tell them the aspects of the situation, help them set up their story, help them be able to frame their task. Really, if they're forgetting some actions, tell them what other actions they took. And if they don't have access to all of the results of the work that they did, share that with them. If you're a coach and you're the one coaching them in your organization, and you're the one who's able to touch base with your clients or the people that you serve, then share those results with the one who created that action. So that's the STAR framework, which really helped Christine. She said that she didn't realize, so at the end of our mini coaching session, she said she didn't realize just how impressive her work was until she was able to piece it out using the STAR framework. So I hope that while I'm talking about the STAR framework, you can already start imagining those situations, the tasks that was assigned to you, what actions you took, and the results. And now I also want to share briefly as well Rose's story. So Rose, our other lead designer for this webinar, the situation was she knew that people were really tuning into podcasts these days, and that is something that positive workplaces had no presence in. We have no podcast. And what was her task? It's to make a podcast. So with a group of other interns, their task was to make a podcast. And what action did she take? She volunteered to be a co-lead. So she was organizing the meetings for the other members of the team. She was checking up on them if they were able to do their tasks. She was brainstorming. She was leading the brainstorming with them as well. And she was the one in charge of sending out invitations, figuring out how to put a podcast on Spotify, figuring out what are the best practices for making podcasts. And the result is we now have a podcast in positive workplaces. So we're launching this. They were able to make 5 episodes with guests, highly esteemed guests who talk about various topics in well-being. And the result is they were able to produce this all without me and John helping out that much, because honestly, John and I were a bit busy during that time, but they were able to handle that all on their own. And the result is it's a really great podcast. I hope you all listen. Follow us on Spotify. We'll share the link then later. So because of what Rose did, we now have a presence in that podcast space, and we're extending the message of well-being to more people who, let's say, they just want to listen in a car, or they want to listen while they're cooking, while they're cleaning. We now have a market for that. And so, as a coach, what are some of my tips for you? You can actually give them a worksheet where you have them just list down what was the situation, what was the task, what was the action, and what was the result. As a coach, you can be the one to initiate that. Or if you don't have a coach and you're just here wanting to learn how you can communicate your story better to others, then do what Christine and Rose did, which is just to sit down and reflect on a specific situation and then lay it out in a STAR, following the STAR framework. And when you're able to lay it down already, when it's asked in an interview or when you're asked to share your story, you would really feel more comfortable because you've already practiced it before. So Christine and Rose did that. And for those who are, again, looking for jobs or who will have interviews or who are being screened for promotions, the tips for you are: first, be specific rather than general. So ayaw natin ng mga Miss Universe statement na I was a team player or I helped or I led the team. Be really specific. You led the team. What did you do? Did you assign roles? Did you check in on everyone? Did you initiate the task? Did you consolidate the members of the different members of the team? Be specific. Don't just say that you led. What did you do as a leader? And then again, like I said, diba? These interviewers, they will be asking you questions like, tell me about a time where you were challenged. Tell me about a difficult situation where people were not agreeing. You want to finish on a positive note. Even if you were sincerely talking about a difficult or challenging time, you still want to finish on a positive note. So still highlight the good actions that you took or the strengths that you have despite that helped you get through the challenge. And next, keep your answers concise. And I really think the STAR framework helps you with that. Because for instance, si Rose, before we talked about the STAR framework, when I just gave her that general, okay, Rose, tell me about your achievement. She noticed that when she was just sharing her story without the guidance of the STAR framework, she shared so many characters in the story, and then she started telling the sub stories of those characters, and then by the end of it, she's like, wait lang, what's the question again? Because you get so lost in the elements and the tangential connections, you share too much. So for interviews, keep it concise. Try to have that STAR framework at the back of your mind. And prepare and practice. So the people actually who do these impromptu answers really well, it's because it's not super impromptu. Pinag-isipan na nila yan. They already Googled what are the behavior-based questions that interviewers might ask. They already imagined those questions that they might ask, and they already started crafting their answers for it. So prepare and practice. That's really going to help you. Or for instance, even if somebody just wants to ask you about your story, about what you did, if you can already frame your achievements using the STAR framework, you'll be much more ready to share it with others. And for coaches, the tip naman is, you can't expect na if you ask people to share their achievements, that they would be able to lay it out clearly. So try to ask STAR questions. Ask them, hey, what was the situation like when you did this task? And what were the actions that you took, or what were the results that you know of? And in many instances, diba, even us, we have our own blind sides. We don't know the full story of something that we're doing. So if you can highlight details to your mentees, let's say they forgot something or they didn't know a particular result, share it with them. If you know it, share it with them. Mirror their achievements back to them. And some tips on dealing with mentees in particular. So especially if you're talking to someone who is very quiet or does not, really put into words just everything that they do, try not to put attention on the lack of conversation. Try not to say things like, oh, ba't tahimik ka? Oh, ba't wala kang masabi? Actually, that actually puts more pressure on your mentees or the people you're coaching. And try to start with simple questions, especially if you're introducing the STAR framework for the very first time. It's hard to just introduce a whole framework and expect them to be able to answer everything. You can piece it out first. Talk about the situation, ask them about the situation, ask follow-up questions. Can you tell me more about that situation? Can you describe the people that you were helping out? Can you describe the time frame in which this happened? Sometimes people are not ready to put their story together in an organized way. So if you are a coach, start with simple questions, highlighting the different parts of the STAR framework. And show up regularly and be positive. So, your coaching conversations, it's not just a one-time thing. It really helps when you have those constant conversations with the people that you're coaching. So regularly check in on them and be positive whenever they're sharing anything with you, whether they're sharing their achievement or their difficulties. Try to highlight some strengths that you see. And also try yung open door approach. So allow people to come to you when you can say that, oh, whenever you're encountering a difficulty here and you need someone to help you see just what you're achieving so far, or help you see your situation more clearly, know that you can reach out to me. And lastly, try seeking permission. Try that approach where you ask people, for instance, hey, I noticed that you were doing some great things in this particular task. Is it okay that we have a conversation where I share those things with you? So sometimes, especially when your mentees are shy or they don't take initiative, it's nice if you're the one who seeks permission to guide them, to share the things that they're doing well with them, to give them feedback. And that way, they will be more open to this type of conversation. So actually, that is the end of the content part of our webinar. What my homework for you is going to be, for everyone in the room, one, practice the STAR framework. So actually practice what I really want you to practice is that challenge. Talk about a challenging time using the STAR framework where you're talking really sincerely about what you're doing, but at the end of it, you still highlight your achievements. So I think if you're able to start off doing something like that, you would be able to if you can do that for a challenging situation, you can do that for any situation. So that would be my homework for everyone. And we really hope you try that out. Phrase your achievements, even starting with a challenging situation. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm actually gonna open the floor to questions on that you asked on Pigeonhole. So if you have questions, you can type it in the chat box, or you can go to Pigeonhole, www.pigeonhole.at/star, and you can even vote on the questions that you see on the screen. So first, let's try to answer this first question. And John is also in the background. So if John, at any point you want to chime in, because John is our HR perspective. John has been in HR for, John, how many years were you in HR again?
Or seven, I think.
Okay. I keep saying a decade and you say, oy, grabe naman. So yeah, 6 or 7 years in HR. So I think first question, how can we effectively use the STAR framework while still giving credit to our teammates? How can we measure or communicate our own achievements without watering down the contribution of others? Patty, this is such a great question. And honestly, you kind of see me struggling with it then sometimes. I cannot get through a whole STAR framework without talking about how John was such a critical player there, or how our interns were really good at doing something that helped with the work. So I'll pass this on to you, John, first. How do you think we can, what would your answer to this question be?
I guess the first question for me is,
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it.
I think the first question that the person will answer is, what are you using the STAR framework for?
Yeah.
Are you using it to be able to identify the behavior or the actions of the person so that you can coach that specific person? Kasi if the objective is like that, then it's very important for you to isolate the actions of that specific person alone, because what you're trying to help is the behavior of that person. So for example, when you're coaching someone na hindi nag-perform ng maganda sa isang task, you have to understand ano yung mga ginawa niyang mga actions, tumugma ba dun sa competency na kailangan nyo for that job. Kunyari, sinabi mo na, kunyari ang task is, the person needs to be able to reach his sales targets. Tapos ano yung mga behavior na ginawa niya? Hindi siya masyadong nag-research, hindi siya masyadong, this person probably just sold based on how he knew how to sell, and that's it. That's the behavior. Those are the actions. So if you're coaching someone, tas sinabi ng person na yon na, as a team, ang ginawa namin ay ganito. You have to follow up. Ikaw, ano yung specific na ginawa mo? Right? Ano yung specific na actions na ginawa mo? Because I'm not coaching the whole team in that specific conversation. I'm trying to coach you. So I'm trying to get what types of behaviors you do so that I can help you reflect on alternative courses of action kung hindi nag-work yung ginawa mong actions before. But we have to understand that STAR framework is based on the concept that past behavior dictates future behavior. So when you're able to highlight yung mga past behaviors ng tao, makikita mo kung yun din ba yung same na gagawin niya in the future. Kung hindi yun yung effective, as a coach, kailangan mo siyang matulungan. Ano ba yung potential na other effective na actions na pwede niyang magawa in order for the results to be different, in order for the results to be better. So kung yung objective mo is to coach that person, learn how to isolate kung ano yung action niya compared dun sa action ng team. There is a different approach now to giving credit to the other people. Baka iba yung objective ng STAR framework. Baka ang objective mo ng STAR framework in that is when you are presenting in a group of people, just like what Nikki is doing, and she doesn't want to hoard all of the credit, her stars will include giving credit to the actions of other people who were part of the job, like Rose or Christine or John, ganyan. In which case, the objective is to simply showcase a general star so that people will understand how exactly the result happened or manifested. So for me, that's the most important thing. Understand why are you using the STAR in the first place. Tapos if it's to coach a specific individual, you have to highlight and isolate the actions of that specific individual based on that certain STAR.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that answer. So whether if you're a coach, so if you're a coach and then that person highlights what the team did, you try to isolate no, how about you? What exactly did you do? And you can do that for yourself as well. So, I am still a learner when it comes to this. I struggle to just talk about my own achievements as well. Like it's hard for me not to highlight everybody else. But for instance, yes, I talked about how that podcast at YouTube, the website, it's really like that was team effort for us to get those up and running. But I can talk about a specific achievement that I had. For instance, I coached everybody in the team about what their strengths were and how to use it in their tasks. So that's something I can take full ownership for, and um and then link that to the results. So because I coached, for instance, I coached Chloe about her strengths in individualization, and then we were able to have more conversations about how she can use those strengths, or I asked her what are the opportunities that she thinks will be able to highlight those strengths. She then really smoothened out the internship program. So even if I'm not taking full credit for the internship program, because Chloe was there, John was there, a lot of people were coaching and mentoring the interns as well. What I can take full credit for is that I introduced each of them to their strengths. I introduced the assessment to each of them. I unpacked the results with them, and I helped them reflect about how they can use their strengths at work. So even if I don't take full ownership over all of the results of that, I will take full ownership over the specific contributions that I have. So Patty, I hope that helps. Na I know, yun nga, coming from that culture na we're humble, we don't want to hog all of the credits, and we didn't achieve all of the results on our own, you can still take full ownership about the specific things that you did. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Patty, and the people who upvoted this question. If the others, you also have tips, don't hesitate to share that in the chat box. We'll go to our next most voted question. Ooh, okay, this one by Polly. Will it become a disadvantage when a job applicant opts to be very detailed in using the STAR framework that it would give the impression of being self-centered to the HR? John, I want to get your HR perspective on this.
Yeah, to be honest, it could. It could be a disadvantage. Kasi if you imagine, diba, recruiters are different types of people, but imagine recruiters as data gatherers and matchmakers. So ang objective or ang task ng recruiter is to be able to match you with the values of the company and the roles that you are applying for. So kung masyadong marami kang information na sinishare doon sa recruiter to the point na mas confusing siya, even if it's in a STAR framework, mahihirapan yung recruiter i-match ka doon sa trabaho. Kasi the purpose of the STAR framework is to highlight the actions tapos i-match it to the competencies that the company is looking for. So for example, ang hinahanap ng company is meron ka bang competency in persuasion and negotiation, in adaptability, ganyan. May mga behavioral indicators yon. So isipin mo, pag nagsabi ka ng 10 actions sa STAR, tapos yung 10 actions na yon ma-overwhelm yung recruiter or yung nag-i-interview sa'yo, pwedeng maging disadvantage siya. Kasi lahat naman tayo may limit in accepting information within a certain period of time. So just like what Nikki was talking about kanina, you have to be very concise with your responses and also be very observant kung ano yung hinahanap na competence ng recruiter or ng interviewer mo, and then just answer the actions in relation to that, or at least when you say the STAR, answer the actions that are specific to those. So be a bit intuitive with it. Again, by the way, the STAR framework is not ours now. Okay, so this is a framework that's being espoused by the Development Dimensions International and other consultants also in the field. But the reason why it was created is kasi pag recruiter, ang objective niya is gaano kadali mag-decide para i-endorse ka doon sa mga hiring managers. So yung STAR, pag napadali mo yung process kasi maganda yung STAR na binibigay mo, you're actually making the job of the recruiter easier for them to make the decision to recommend to the hiring managers. And that is very important because recruiters read so many profiles, they interview so many people in a day. Imagine that. So if you make it easier for them using the STAR method, ang laking bagay nun sa amin, ang laking bagay nun sa mga recruiters. So just be concise. Be concise. Do not try to overwhelm with so many information in your STAR kasi it will also blur the message. So that's my tip.
Yeah, I love that. I really want to highlight, they actually talk about, I mean, when you're a recruiter, they highlight what skills they're looking for. So if you say too much, you will not be able to go in depth in talking about it. So choose depth over breadth in that instance. Instead of talking superficially about all of your actions and all of the results, try to be really targeted about matching it to what they're looking for. So
Yeah, it's in the job description generally, diba? So you will get a vibe naman what competencies they're looking for because of their job advertisement. So you can get a feel of what competencies now you should associate with the actions that you will put in your STAR. That's why if there are some of you who are still interview nyo tomorrow tapos hindi nyo paghahandaan by looking for the stars that will match, oh my God, you have to try to change your habits. Kasi you have to now prepare. There are so many people that you are competing with when it comes to employment. You will be surprised at how many hundreds recruiters are reading profiles for. Yung kay Positive Workplaces lang, sobrang dami naming binasang resume release kami ng ad for Learning and Development Associate and Talent Management Associate. So mas madali yung trabaho ng recruiter pag maganda yung sagot niya doon sa STAR. Kasi mas alam niya at pulido kung ano yung ililink niya doon sa competencies na meron yung organization. So yep.
Yeah, thanks for answering, John, and thanks for Polly for asking that great question. Oh yeah, next question. Okay, John, the STAR framework is also applicable for competency-based performance appraisal systems. Is that right? Quick answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying this. For a lot of competency-based performance management systems, di ba you have KPIs or key performance indicators, which are the hard targets. Ano yung mga individual na goals ng mga tao in your company. Tapos, half the other part is competencies. Ano yung mga developmental needs mismo or capabilities ng organization. So doon na papasok yung mga competencies nyo, work standards, communication, results orientation, etc. etc. So in performance appraisal, especially the more progressive ones, hindi lang mini-measure ng mga tao kung ano yung na-achieve. Mini-measure ng mga tao is gaano kakalapit doon mismo sa competency dictionary or framework ng organization. Kasi it's the growth aspect of performance. Diba? Hindi ka sinisingil lang kung ano nagawa mo. Tinitingnan kung gaano kaganda yung inyong growth against the competencies of the organization. So the answer is yes, the STAR framework can be applicable kasi when you do your performance feedback, syempre hindi lang naman scoring yon, di ba? When you do your performance feedback or when you score the competencies mismo, your basis is a STAR. Di ba? Kung ano yung actions na lumabas doon sa STAR mo, yun yung magiging basis mo for scoring yourself or your peer or your staff when you rate them in their performance evaluation under the competencies.
Yeah.
So that's very, very relevant, definitely. Thank you so much for asking this.
Thank you for asking that question. I think we have time for one more question. Okay, here, interesting, especially for our younger audience. What if the applicant does not have any experience yet to use the STAR framework effectively? Will sharing a personal life experience unrelated to work be a disadvantage automatically? STAR
Oh,
situation.
that's such a spicy question. Okay. So yung STAR framework, hindi lang naman siya for employment talaga eh. Kasi nga behavior yung kinukuha mo, yung action personal, o kanya, for example, anong nangyari sa pamilya niya nung nagkaroon ng COVID, nagkaroon ng infection, for instance, yung isang family member, tapos dahil nagkaroon ng infection yung isang family member, ang task nila is to keep everyone else safe. Ano ngayon yung ginawa ng person na yon within the household? So, nag-research ba siya? Nag-ensure ba siya ng protocols or guidelines within the household? Nag-communicate ba siya ng maayos dun sa mga ibang members na ano dapat yung gawin, etc. Kung napansin nyo, dun sa example na yon, it's not work-related, pero it will show you competencies based on the actions that the person did. Right? So, ibig sabihin, pag na-face yung tao sa situation na yon, na ganung klaseng type of challenge, likely, ganun din yung gagawin niya pag na-face siya sa work. The reason why work-related examples are important or work-related stars are important, it's because the instances that they will encounter in the future in work is similar to those work experience examples. So, pero it doesn't mean that just because their example is personal, wala kayong makukuhang behavior or action related to your competencies. Pwede pa rin naman. Pwede pa rin. Yun nga lang, less likely, siguro lesser yung likelihood ng relationship doon sa potential situations that will happen at work. Kasi puro personal yung examples. But I guess that's normal naman for all fresh graduates. The other tip is, for other fresh graduates, they will have their internship. So you try to look for a star in those. Diba? Yung mga OJT, o kaya yung volunteer experiences nila with organizations. You can also look for stars on those kasi those are also workplaces. Those are parang kumbaga wala lang bayad pero it's pretty much almost like employment. That's the nearest. So yeah, those are my tips for you whenever you don't have the work experience yet.
Love that. Love that question and that answer. Thanks, John. Um, Maybe one last. How to use STAR in helping the mentee acknowledge that there is a behavior that he or she is somehow unaware of, but is already negatively impacting their performance.
Ooh, do you have an answer for this?
I think just really setting the context, like yung situation. So this webinar has been all about using STAR to be able to talk about your achievements, but it's also a self-awareness method where you can talk about an action that does not lead to a good result. So I really believe in using the being really clear with the STAR framework. Kasi alam mo sometimes, John, like if we say, alam mo, you were like, if we just focus on the action, let's say the action was you were too rash, you didn't think. And so sometimes the mentee will get traumatized and will never jump into a situation head first ever again. But there are moments in their life when you have to be a fast actor. You can't think too much. You have to move quickly. So there will be instances in their lives where kailangan nila na to move quickly. But because of that one moment that you scolded them, that they moved too quickly, they didn't think the situation through, they might be too traumatized to ever do that again. So the STAR framework really helps you be a better coach, because you can say, like, the situation, let's say the situation was the thing that they prepared would be scaled to hundreds of people, or the thing that they prepared needed careful thinking. So you setting up that situation helps them realize, oh, what action, when is my fast, rash action not suitable to the situation? And then you can talk about the task and what action they did and what was the result of what they did. So you're not just focusing on what action did you do and don't ever do that again. You're setting up what is the situation in the task in which that action won't work and what became the result of your action in that instance. So for me, using the STAR, going through the whole thing really helps give your mentee the context in which they shouldn't have done that, and what became the result, what became the impact of that action. So they get a more objective view of a situation and a less traumatic view. What about you,
Ako,
John?
ako I think dito papasok yung input kanina na okay lang ba na marami yung actions na ilagay mo doon sa star? Kasi 'di ba may input kanina na like for recruiters, okay ba na damihan mo yung actions? May overwhelm ba sila? Feeling ko when it's coaching, maganda na damihan din maganda na yung breadth ng actions makita para ma-analyze yung actions against the result. Kasi I guess the question here is, how do you make the mentee realize that a certain behavior or an action negatively impacted a performance? And I think you will only be able to unpack that if you know what all of the actions were in respect to that certain situation. So baka since you have more time between the mentee and the mentor, magkaroon kayo na lang siguro ng very quick brainstorming exercise na, o sige nga, for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, isulat mo lahat ng mga actions na ginawa mo in relation to that situation. So talagang take note lang, like quiet time. Tapos pag nakita niyo yung breadth ng actions, i-analyze nyo against the result. Tapos alin doon yung mga actions that contributed to the result, and alin doon yung actions na hindi nag-contribute doon sa result. I guess that's a very objective way of seeing. Kahit na kung unaware siya, makikita nyo ngayon, ay, ito palang specific na action na to hindi maganda, no? So, hindi nag-result into something. So I guess yun yung nakita ko na usefulness niya based on dun sa input kanina.
Yeah, and just one last thing I want to share. You can actually use the STAR framework to ask the questions. Para imbes na sa'yo lang nanggagaling lahat ng information, you can ask them, what was the situation, what was the task, and then as in you giving them that space to share all of these things, they will take more ownership pag sa kanila nanggagaling. So you can use the STAR framework as a mentor in asking the right questions to help them uncover the truth of that situation, of how an action did not lead to good performance. So yeah, that's our time for the questions. Thanks so much, John, for chiming in, and thank you everyone for asking such insightful questions here today. Before we close, I just want to say again, we have a podcast. It has been launched on Spotify. So we'll be posting the links there if you want to join, if you want to listen in on that podcast. We already have 5 episodes that we'll be releasing slowly. Our intro is already there. We're also on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram and you want to see some thoughts on well-being and creating positive workplaces on your feed, please follow us on please follow us on Instagram. Wait, what's our Instagram again? Is it there?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, sorry, it's blocked at Positive Workplaces. And then we also have a website where we, share all of our resources. So everything, all of our posts, we actually curate it there. So if you want a place for those resources, goes to positiveworkplaces.org. And we have all of our articles and features there. And our YouTube is also up. So please follow us on YouTube as well if you want to catch any of the webinars that you missed in the past, or you want to see all of the webinars we've done. It's all on YouTube. So please subscribe to our channel as well.
Yes, and please help us out because, diba, our objective is to co-create cultures, and our main measure of this is ripples. So kung gaano kalaki na yung followers or number of learners. So we hope you can share this to your friends, the YouTube, the podcast, the Spotify, tsaka yung Facebook. Kasi the more people who are able to equip themselves with well-being, the better it will be for the mission of Positive Workplace and the people who are also part of the community.
Yes, we're really grateful for you helping us reach this reach thus far. So please continue to help us. And again, follow us on Facebook as well. You get all of our updates there, our webinars, our posts. It's on Facebook. Please follow us, facebook.com/positiveworkplacesph. Oh yeah, that's it. That's all. And then we're gonna be posting the post-evaluation link in the chat box. So please share your evaluation with us. We really love reading your main takeaways from this. Help us know what are other webinars that you would like to see in the future, because we really want to create relevant content for you. And know again that this is part of a series. So please, if you follow us on facebook.com/positive workplaces PH, you'll see the links to the registration to the next webinars as well. So John, any last words you'd like to say to our audience?
I'm just very thankful for this group. I mean, this is one of the highest numbers that we've had in the last couple of webinar sessions. Now we now have around 121. I saw up until 125 kanina. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you can invite more of your friends because the 2 other sessions will be as exciting. Sabi ni Maan, so Maan, Nikki, is Maria Teresa Flora. She's my office mate in SGS and she's a very good friend. Sabi niya, future webinar, emotional intelligence versus IQ in a multi-generational workplace. Oh my God, that's so hot.
I love that. Yeah, that's something we've been thinking on more, diba, John? Yung Gen Zs mixing with the millennials, mixing with the Gen X. So that is something that we may think about bringing to the future.
We will definitely consider that, Maan. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, so we'll be posting our link. Ayan, our post-eval link is there. So thank you, everyone. You can click on that link, give us your evaluation, and you'll get your certificate. We'll just keep this space open just a little bit longer for everyone else to be able to click. But thank you, Leah. She said, thank you so much. I definitely learned a lot. God bless you more. Cecil, it's nice to see you again in this space. No, we hope you can, we hope to, be able to have a workshop again where we get to see your face.
I hope we can see Baguio.
Yeah, pag-save na. So excellent webinar. As always, hey, Jeshan is here. Jeshan was my student in Mindanao. So Jeshan is now part of the workforce. So Jeshan, it's nice to see you here.
Grabe, like your student in Mindanao, so elementary?
No. He was high school then.
Okay.
So now he's working. I feel so old. Hello, Jeshan. Melanie's here. Great session, Nikki and John, PW team. And again, congrats, diba? It's Christine and Rose who really led the design of this workshop. So thank you to our interns, Christine and Rose. Melanie said congrats to the content creators. Ooh, Amelin said, thank you too for this free webinar. I learned more about the STAR methods. More power, God bless, stay safe. Ay, John, may message sa'yo si Maan.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Maan. You're so kind. And Maan's always been a fan. She's a very good friend kasi when we were in SGS talaga. As in like kachikahan ko pa yan when she was with the ROHQ group.
Maan, for even, may hinata ka pang friend. So thank you. Thank you, Albert.
Nikki, Maan is also a good friend of Jose de Colongon. Yan.
Oh my God, we're gonna have Jose here soon. We're gonna drag him. Watch his webinar also, man. Albert, thank you.
Paagong kalaman.
Oh, Miss Lillian, we're great. We're happy to see you here again. Patty says kudos to our interns. Monica says thanks.
Grabe, I'm still amazed, Nikki, that the interns and you were able to put this content in just like less than 2 weeks.
We did it in like 2 days.
So yun talaga, magandang ilagay yun sa STAR nila Rose tsaka nila ni Christine na demand was just for us to be able to put together content like this in a short span of time, and then when you just put your heads together and brainstorm, that was the result, no? Amazing.
Yeah. And John, I don't know if you knew, but I initially didn't ask for help, but Christine and Rose were like, hey, we want to help with this webinar. And they just did so well that I was able to focus on a lot of other work. So that's something they can add to the situation, that they took the initiative.
And action, they can add that in the action. Kasi, diba, like when you're looking for competencies, one of the competencies that companies are looking for generally is initiative. Tapos if people see that in their actions, if recruiters see that in their actions, they're gonna be like, nag-volunteer sila tapos sobrang liit na nung deadline nung time frame. And look at what the result was. So like a lot of people were happy with the program. I
Yeah.
hope are they here ba? Like I think they're watching siguro sa YouTube, no? Kasi I saw like there are like 6 or 7 people watching in YouTube.
Yeah, I don't think they're here. I did see them kanina because I think they have class as well. So yeah, no, grabe. Despite their busy work schedule, their classes, they were still able to put this together and they volunteered to do it. So thanks, Christine and Rose, wherever you are watching from.
Yeah. Just also a reminder for the people who are answering the post evaluations, we will only keep this open for 30 minutes from like from the time the session is finished because it's very difficult administratively to manage and reply to all of the requests. For example, 2 weeks after, tapos i-request yung ano. So I hope you can answer the evals now para it would be easier for you to generate the certificate na rin. And we can make that a norm. So thank you so much for always for always participating in that norm.
Yeah.
Monica said, done with the evaluation. Thank you. Ma'am Nikki and Sir John, looking forward to have you again. Yes. Si Pauline. Oh, Pauline from Enchanted Kingdom. It's great to know that a concept I learned years ago is still relevant. Grabe, tanda ko na. Walang banggitan ng age, Pauline, ha? Takot lang din namin ni Nikki. Pero, kaya nga nagulat ako, Nikki, nung sinabi mo, your student is here. So, oh my God.
I feel my age. My students are part of the workforce.
Oh, ang ganda nung comment ni Lizel, Nikki. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, nice, Lizel. Yeah, I hope it really helps you. Because like I said, diba, I shy away from it, but John makes me do that exercise all the time. And we also give this exercise to the during the positive leadership workshop, right? So yeah, we hope it helped you. And yes, everyone who's done, I mean, everyone, the webinar is actually done. So you've gotten to click the link. Like, chichikan lang kami ni John because just in case there are people who are still clicking on the link, we just wanted to keep it open just a little longer. But my 78 listeners, tayo dyan. Thank you to everyone who's still around.
Nikki, I also, of course, want to thank our teammates here, si Gio and si Kurt, who are so diligent in sharing the links and admitting people in the room. Thank you so much, Gio and Kurt, for the help.
Yeah, and for those of you who are still here, Gio is actually gonna be giving one of our webinars soon. So Gio is taking a certificate course in positive psychology, and he will be giving one of our webinars in August. So watch out when next time ako yung magpa-paste ng links, si Gio yung mag-host ng webinar.
No pressure, Gio.
Oh my God, Giselle, exactly. Oh my gosh, I was gonna say exactly. August is the month. We are making wellness webinars for teachers. So it was still a secret, so I couldn't help myself.
Grabe, Nikki, that's such foreshadowing, no, Giselle? Alam mo, hanapin mo na yung mga teachers friends mo and ihanda mo na i-share sa kanila mga content because Kurt is here. Kurt is actually the one, our research and development associate, and he's the one who creates the themes for the webinars, no? And the theme for next month is actually for teachers. So thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, so that's actually what Gio is gonna be really focusing on, how to develop, how to enhance your well-being as a teacher in our difficult situation. And he's gonna be talking about a framework that was developed by the founder of positive psychology. So don't miss out on that webinar, Giselle. That is exactly what you asked for. It has manifested. Gio is doing that webinar for you in August.
Grabe, Nikki, great minds. Love it. Sabi ni Lawrence, communication is currently a challenge in the public sector. Oh my God, don't worry, Lawrence. It's a challenge for a lot of people. As in, like, it's just challenge also for private sector, for NGOs. And that's also a little bit culturally ingrained. It's because people in the Philippines especially, we are collectivists, no? So we don't want to offend others. Na sometimes when we become too honest, nararamdaman ng mga tao na ano ba yan, ang sakit naman magsalita. So maybe that could be another topic that we could also unpack in the future, no? Na even if na right now one tip of communicating is S.T.A.R para hindi masyadong masakit kasi nakikita mo yung buong situation. But in the future, maybe we can start exploring also other things like empathic communication o kaya like positive communication, mga ganyan, which Nikki is an expert in. Like, I so idolize her for positive communication. My God, I hope I can get close to it.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for sharing your context, Lawrence. Because we really read through all of the comments and all of the suggestions for topics post evaluation. Like we really want to be super listening to you guys because you are the reason why we're here and why we create all of these things. So yeah, please keep sharing your thoughts like that. And I feel like even the S.T.A.R has helped you communicate, can help you communicate as well. Oh, Rosalia has a question. She wants to see the 2 other webinars in July. So let me just share that on the screen. And the links to all of these, I'll paste it here as well. If you wanna, if you wanna get our next webinars, I'll paste it here in the chat box. And again, everyone, you don't, if you're, we're just like chichikahan for some reason. So if you have something to go to after, don't hesitate. It's totally fine. We're actually done with the webinar kanina pa, but
Oh my God, Nikki, look, we have a learner named Hamilton. That's such an amazing name. Hamilton Villapando. Ah, nice.
Hi Hamilton, thank you for your really nice comment.
I know,
And now that
yeah.
there's only 49 people in the room, I wouldn't hesitate to admit more na, up to this day, I know it's been 1 year, webinars still make me so nervous, especially our public webinars. But, Hamilton, I live for your comment, your kindness. Like, see, you being so kind in that way is actually something that helps me be brave again for the upcoming webinars in the future. So thank you so much for your kind comments.
Yeah, Hannah rin, Nikki. Hannah said, thank you for this webinar. I can clearly see that you have positive workplace by how the speakers communicate with each other. And I've learned a lot from this session, more webinars like this. Oh, thank you so much, Hannah. We try to really use some of the concepts that we have to make a positive workplace as much as possible. Because alam nyo, kahit si positive workplaces ganito, sobrang dami namin ginagawa. Kasi sobrang busy yan. But because of a lot of these learnings that we are also using on the, like what we're teaching you, we get to create a culture that our other interns, our employees, and Nikki and I also learn from. Tapos siguro dahil paulit-ulit naming pinag-uusapan at saka sinusubukang i-ingrain in to become habits, nagiging kultura siya. Hindi na namin minsan namamalayan. Yung check-ins and check-outs, naging kultura na siya. Yung appreciating strengths, naging kultura na siya. Parang gano'n. So, I guess it's just a matter of making yourselves get used to it. Oh my God, si DJ Tracy, Nikki.
Hi, DJ Tracy. Thank you for being, with us again from the very start. We're one of our most loyal and most influential participants. Thank you, DJ Tracy. Ang tagal na natin magkasama dito, no? Like doing these webinars. But, we were able to enhance our reach because of DJ Tracy promoting us. So thank you so much, DJ Tracy. We're so grateful.
Isa pa yan si DJ Tracy na bibisitahin natin, Nikki, sa Cavite. Pag bumababa na yung pandemic, no? So, marami tayong pupuntahan.
Yes.
Even Mindanao, di ba? Even Mindanao and Visayas. Wag lang paggalit ang taan. Nice.
Good nga.
Thanks. Nikki, I have to leave now because I have a 5 p.m. with Samdana Indonesia. So
yes, I think I will close the call already. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you for being here. And we will see you in the next webinars, hopefully. Take care.
Yes, Pauline, we will visit you in Enchanted Kingdom also.
Interest rides. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.